Hi, Ann, you all set? Voice?
Morning. Yep, I'm all set. Morning,
Good morning.
everybody.
Morning,
Morning.
everybody.
All right, let me just pull up these.
Excuse me.
I had the agenda open, but I closed it accidentally.
Okay.
Okay. We will call the November 16th, 2021 State Board of Landscape Architects meeting is officially in session. Just board members present. I believe we have myself, Mark Aragoni, Phil Barlow, Ann Penniman, and Dominic Saltruda. First item on the agenda, review of minutes from the August 17th, 2021 meeting. Are there any comments from the board? And they were supplied in the board package. Everybody want a minute to review them again, or if there are no comments, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item 2, comments or concerns of any person present today. Bob, do we have anybody else on the line?
I was just checking. We do not.
Okay,
Everyone here, everyone's on this.
great, thank you. Moving to item 3, DCP Investigation Division Complaint Status Report. I believe we do have someone to on the call for that one, and I think there was also something, Bob,
Yep.
you sent out, sort of a summary.
I received the report yesterday and I sent it out to the board today from Janita Hamill.
Gotcha.
And Janita is on with us.
Good morning, members of the board. This is Pamela Brown, Director of
Pam.
Investigations. And I'm here with Janita Hamill, who will be reporting out. I just wanted to say hello. It's not often I'm able to attend this meeting. Janita Hamill will be reporting out the complaint status report.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the board. This is Janita Hamill, Supervising Special Investigator for Occupational Professional Enforcement inside the Investigations Division headed up by Pamela Brown. It's not often that we have information to relay out to this board, so I'm happy to say that we did receive a complaint. It was investigated, and right now it's in the legal department for them to review the report to determine what they feel is an appropriate administrative action to take in the matter.
Okay, I will open it up just if any board members have any questions. Feel free to ask them. I don't know if we're going to get any more answers
I'm
out of it, but
I'm curious what the nature of the complaint is.
It would say, if you look at the report under issues, it's the alleged violations are advertising possible unethical conduct and unlicensed or unregistered. And those issues are allegations and remain allegations until the legal department either takes an administrative action up there, or if they determine that the allegations are of such a nature that they would feel they should present an administrative hearing in front of your panel. So right now, that's the best I can let you know. Those were the allegations. It's upstairs in legal. Legal's reviewing it, and then they'll decide how they want to approach it from there.
I guess the question I have is, I see that it's age 96 days.
Yep.
Is there I mean, because we haven't seen one of these in a long time, is there like a guesstimate on time frame on when these normally come? Are we talking, could it be a year? Is it usually
It could
6
be.
months?
It depends. It could be. In this case, your board, we don't normally have a lot of files. And it also depends on how many assignments that the investigator has. Then it also depends on what board it's going to be reported to, if it's going to get to that point. As a way of an example, the heating and cooling board, because we get the most complaints in that area, there is a definite possibility it could be a year plus before a file gets presented to them. Whereas on this, I don't know, because I don't know what legal's going to do, how, why, or when. Once it leaves us and it goes to legal, then we wait until we're called and notified that there's going to be a compliance meeting if they're properly licensed, or if it's going to be presented to your board and we'll be called to testify. So once it goes to legal, I can't really speak to that. I don't know. But it depends on it depends on the board and the number of files that we have forwarded to legal for review.
Well, let me add on to that. That's Pamela Brown again. So when a case comes in, what you're seeing is 89 days. That's the age of the case, or the moment that it came into the agency. So that's entered into the system. Then there's some things that happens, and then it transfers over to Janita, and Janita reviews it and then assigns it out to her inspector or investigator, in this case, investigator. And so it depends on the cooperation during the course of the investigation, things that we might need to establish probable cause, if you will, before we send it to legal. Once it goes to legal, that person, credential holder, is entitled to a compliance meeting. And so that is the first thing that they're going to do, is have them, a compliance meeting these days are taking place mostly over Zoom or Teams, and they might have them come in depending upon the preference of that attorney. And then from there, determines whether or not they're going to settle it, either by, if there's restitution. In case of advertising, there's not, there will be potentially a civil penalty issue. And if they can't come to an agreement, or if there's something more egregious, then the hearing would come before you. So those are the steps, in putting a timeline. We couldn't really do that.
No, and thank you very much. I mean, it's just because we haven't seen one of these, I just figured I'd ask the question. Thank you for the explanation. So is it safe to assume that the I don't even know if it's defendant or the person accused, have they been notified in this process?
Oh,
Yes.
for sure.
Okay.
The complainant gets a letter that says, we either need this from you, or this is what we're doing. And the person that's been, the allegations are made against, they get a letter and they get contacted and they get a copy of the complaint. And we start saying, these are the allegations made against you. Do you have a license? Did you forget to display it? What's going on here? And we move from there. But both parties get a letter and notified by the department. We have the file, we're working on it. And based on, like Director Brown said, based on the information we get and and the probable cause, then if it does seem that the allegations could be sustained by legal, we forward it to legal.
Thank you very much. Okay, so as far as that, is there anything else to add, or we just sort of sit and wait and we might see something come of this, or it might get settled without ever coming to us again?
Yes, it's a possibility that it could settle, but then we'll see that on the next time that we have a meeting, whenever it settles, it'll appear on the report that that was created by Janita Hamill that you have before you. That will show up as a record there.
As closed.
Yes.
And it will have under the resolution and the resolution notes, what happened. It will say settlement. If there was a settlement and there was a fine assessed, then there will be fines that show up in under the fine section. And instead of it saying it's open, it will say that it's closed. You will also at that point in time, see the date it was closed. You will then see the respondent, the person who was complained about, you will see their name and their credential or lack of credential at that point as well.
Okay. All right. Again, thank you very much for attending, number one, and then bearing with us to explain some of that to us.
No, not a problem. Not a problem at all.
Questions. All good questions.
I guess I have one other question while I have both of you on the call.
Yeah.
I'm just looking down our agenda, and I don't know if you have a copy of the agenda, but we've had and this may be not something in your purview, but because I have both of you on the call, I'm just going to ask. We have had, it's item 4B on our old business. It's something that's come up to this board several times over the last several years. And it's with regards to towns or municipalities, or even the Department of Transportation, not accepting our landscape architectural stamp or certification on a set of drawings. And then in simple terms, just saying, well, this requires an engineer's stamp. And they're basically ignoring the landscape architecture stamp. We have had discussions. We've had discussions with the AG, representatives from the AG's office. We really haven't gotten anywhere, and we will continue to push. But because I have both of you on the line, I just wanted to see if you had any recommendations, or you've gotten involved in anything before, or do you solely get involved in individual or practicing landscape architecture complaints?
Have you consulted with Leslie O'Brien, our legislative liaison? She might be able to help you with that, especially dealing with the legislature. Maybe they can put something, or you can propose something for language. This is a time where things are being drafted. I'm not saying this will solve your problems, but it might if you do it legislatively, and she might be the person to speak with. I can send you her email, or I can ask her to email you. I'm sure she has your information.
That would be great. That would be great. And, to the other members of the board, I figured I would ask the question because we have them both on the line, just to see if we can go about it a different angle.
Mark, you said that would be great. Which would be great? For you to contact the person, or they to contact you?
Either way. So Pamela, if that's something that, if you have either Bob, we know how to get in touch with Bob, or myself, or the entire board. If it's something that she can contact us, or we can reach out and contact her, either one would work. But good question, Phil. Can we figure out which one it might be?
I'll take care of it.
So that's a double great. There we go. Now we know.
Thanks, Pam.
No problem, Bob. Hey, Mark.
Okay,
So
then
Mark, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just to be clear, so it's a new tact. In other words, you're thinking Pam's suggesting perhaps the possibility of putting something in the reg or the statute that.
Yeah, why not have the discussion? Yeah, that's all I'm saying. It may go nowhere, It may be a multi-year process, but if there's another, we haven't really gotten too far with several complaints about this happening. So, hey, if we can go a different route, I don't see why we wouldn't at least have the conversation. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I got another question on that, Mark. The complaints that we've gotten, have they been formally submitted, but do they investigate? Does Pamela or Janita investigate those complaints when it's a barrier to practice issue?
Excuse me.
This went through, I believe this went through the attorney generals, and was it Raul? I'm trying to think of his last
Raul
name.
Rodriguez?
Raul,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
He's the attorney, he's the assistant attorney general that's assigned as the attorney for the boards. The attorney general's office is separate from DCP. And you might want to talk with him. You might want, as Pamela suggested, having Leslie O'Brien and him talk.
Yeah, I think
Because-
that's probably the best angle.
I think you might want to, before you do anything, you might want to have Raul and Leslie talk and maybe come in and talk to you at your next meeting and say, listen, this has been a problem. We're looking for guidance and how can we address this? Because it seems to me that either the Connecticut DOT, which we have no jurisdiction over, or the local municipalities, which we have no jurisdiction over, are not accepting a landscape architect stamp on a drawing that's being presented either on the local level or the state level, correct?
Correct. That was a very good
Okay.
summary.
You might also want to reach out. Darren Hobbs is the acting, for lack of a better term, he's the deputy chief building official for the state of Connecticut with the office of the state building official's office. You might want to reach out to him. I do not think they've appointed a replacement for the gentleman who retired. But he oversees the building officials and trains the building officials. And they're also the same, the state building officials office is also the one that does the continuing education for those of us who are code officials. So you might want to have them in your discussion to try to figure out why the local towns wouldn't accept your stamp drawing. And I do believe that most of, if not all of the recent past state building officials have been AIA members, AIA certified, if I'm saying it right. So you might want to try that route.
Another good recommendation. Thank you. Okay, anyone else, any other board members have any other questions regarding this? Okay, then I think according to our agenda, we sort of discussed 4B. Now we're going to move to 4A and kind of the meat of our agenda. I don't think we're going to need you anymore, and I don't want to take up any more of your time, Janita or Pamela, but thank you very much for attending.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Thank you. And all have a good day. Have good holidays. Because I don't know that we'll be seeing you again until after the new year. So all the holidays between now and then, enjoy and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janita. Thank you, Pam.
Okay, I apologize for railroading that, but I figured I would just put that out there and see if they had any recommendations, and it looks like they did.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, moving on to 4A, continuing discussion, State Board and Yukon outreach. I think we finally have a presentation. Do we have any update on that one? And Dom, I'll go to you.
Yeah, I'm going to apologize. There's no excuse. I had no traction in August or September. I had a personal issue in my family that took up a lot of my time. I won't get into it, but I have an ill parent that I'm caring for now. It's taking up a little more time. I do want to suggest or ask for some help on this issue. I'm definitely into getting this done in terms of meeting with UConn. I also think it might be good, if we can try to schedule something. I may not be the best person to try to coordinate it, but I can definitely attend something. I know that they're doing a lot of activities up at the school. Phil, I don't know if you're still active up there or not, if you've got a plan up there. I did try to reach out early on in September, but again, it's on me. I couldn't follow up. I had a lot of outside of the normal business day activities.
Dom, I apologized for 3 years, I think, of not getting anything. So
No, it's tough, and it's something that I try to follow up. And you guys have seen the activity of emails over the last couple of weeks on other items that we're going to discuss today. But on this one, it's just I thought we had, there's good momentum. I want to make sure we get up there and we talk to them, and we just have to have a good point of contact up there so we can get in there and meet with one of the classes or 2 of the classes up there.
Dom, what was your question to me?
I don't know if we had talked about trying to reach out to the chapter president. I tried to, but I don't think it went very far. I don't know if you've got a good the people up there, I believe. And
Are you talking about the student chapter president?
Yeah, or even somebody at UConn, even if we have one of the allies, the professors up there, I don't really care. I just want to, like you said, Mark, we both, it always takes a back burner. I want to push the forefront. I know we're not getting anything done until next semester because we're almost at Thanksgiving now, but we should put a bug in their ear, and I'm willing to go up there and do the work, go up there, make the presentation, all that stuff. It says I'm having trouble, being the standard bearer to get up there and actually get the contact and get something nailed down.
So I'll put it.
Yes, I have the contacts. I have the ear of the professors. So, as soon as you guys want to do it, I can help facilitate making it happen. So I don't see anything for me to do at this point, but.
Well, we have the presentation that Mark sent.
Correct.
By that. And honestly, I think we all work with deadlines. I think we should just try to plan for something. And then Mark and I are like, okay, we got to do it. And
we got to do it. Yeah.
We'll just push through and get up there and get them their presentation, because I think it's something we need to have them, have. And I think it's something that benefits.
No, I get it. All right. So if I was to reach out to Minuti and one of the other professors and tell them that we'd like to come up and make a presentation for them to give us a date, that would work?
Yeah, I'd say we probably need an hour, something like that.
Okay. Oh, I will do that.
That would be
did
great.
You send it, Mark, did you send out the presentation?
Yeah, a while ago I sent it out to all you guys. I can send it again.
That. I'll look for it.
Yeah,
we have
to
tweak a couple of. We're going to have to tweak a couple of.
The presentation is on the benefits of licensing.
Correct.
Yeah, and the process. Basically, we're trying to, take down the belief that may be out there that it's so hard and it's this daunting thing that, we want to say, hey, there's a process in place and this is the process. It's always nice to explain it, and we never have, I don't think, as a board.
Do that right. Well, I have covered it. When I've taught professional practice, which has only been once so far, but we did have a lecture on licensing, and just as you said, Mark, the procedures of how to do it and the benefits and so on and so forth.
Yeah, this would maybe be a little bit more of a touch point that the board is actually, practicing landscape architects. And there's an off chance that we may even get somebody from CLARB. The CLARB new CEO is active and engaged, and we may be able to, and he's likable and personable. So maybe if it's a Zoom call or if it's a presentation, maybe we can get some participation from CLARB as well.
Yeah, they're in person now, so it would be in person.
Yeah.
So you'd make it more transparent. You'd make the whole licensing process more transparent, less opaque, less daunting. That whole thing.
Yep.
Pull back the curtain.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil, for doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, we will keep that on the agenda as old business. I think we will, Bob, maybe we can modify 4B just to say that, I don't know, maybe we can come up with some language, just that we're going to follow up with a few additional contacts within the state to maybe push this along,
Yes,
just so we're not regurgitating the Philip Doyle, although he did submit a good letter. I think we have another
I think-
one, so.
right. We could going forward, we could probably just put it in a more generic term. It's really the issue of accepting the landscape.
Yep, agreed.
Okay, yeah, I can do that, sure.
Yeah, because in the minutes, we're gonna have all these names too, so they'll be memorialized. Leslie O'Brien, Raul again, Darren Hobbs. That'll be good. Okay, 4C, live attendance requirement for landscape architectural continuing education relative to COVID. I'm still in favor of keeping this how we have it, because we still have restrictions out there, so.
I agree.
I agree.
Yep.
Okay,
So just to summarize, that it will continue to be waived, the live requirement.
correct.
Correct.
Until, and we've been saying that it'll be waived until our next meeting to see if anything changes. So that'll be after the first of the year. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I suggest that we waive it through winter of 22.
So what would that mean? What meeting would that be, Bob?
Second meeting, right?
It would bring us to the May meeting
The May meeting.
next year. Yeah,
That's fine.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You good, Bob?
yes, I am. Yep.
Okay. 4D, status of public member board appointments. I believe we have some official letter submissions. Bob, do you have any follow-up on where we are with some of those?
I have not received any information from our department yet on any pending or any. I usually, when there's an appointment, I'll usually get word from our director with copies of the appointment letters, and I have not received anything yet.
We know that they're, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. I did reach out to Phil as well, and I know ASLA Connecticut has been pushing the issue. I think we have one that is in process. There was a question on where it was going. And I think there might be another one also that's going to be queued up. I think the bigger thing for us is, as we needed a roadmap to licensure, we need a clear roadmap for someone to be either nominated for an appointment and or asking to be appointed. I think you guys have seen some of the stuff coming down from ASLA is who's getting the appointment letter, and then also, I think through ASLA, not through our board, and I'm not speaking for ASLA board. My suggestion to them was allowing follow-up with them to really push with their might to see that it's getting processed in the due time, or if there's an issue. I'll be no stranger. Phil knows this. When I applied for the board, I was originally rejected saying there were no positions. So Phil had to make a quick email. I believe, Phil, you did follow up on that. And it was, there was a misunderstanding of which board and things like that. So we want to make sure, I'd like you said, more transparency on how you want to apply for this board. I know ASLACT is pushing to have our board filled. They think it's an action item within their advocacy group, and I think and I can't speak for XCOM with ASLA, but they see that it would be more positive that we had all the member positions filled. So I know, Phil, that one has gone through. I think we'll probably see some movement on that at some point, and then obviously trying to fill those late positions. And then I've talked to them also about succession plan. If someone needs to obviously recuse themselves, we want to make sure we have people ready. I feel a strong board not only promotes the health, safety, and welfare of the state, but also the residents of the state, but also our profession as a whole. So,
Yeah.
So that's a good synopsis, Dom. And one thing that you hit to spin on my mind is the the pipeline, if you will, of professional members. So, you know, in your advocacy role, I don't know if you can start that process up a flagpole just to start to, you know, let people know that, you know, that we will at some point be looking for professional members, and,
Correct.
you know, anyone that's interested should start to think about that.
Yep. In a perfect world, we'd have a pool of people interested in taking over if one of us has
Right.
to. But also, you know, I'm also pushing that the lay membership. I think it's something that personally I've kind of said, we, you know, as much as I can, I'm trying to say, let's get some involvement, let's get some ideas and get those people. And then when we have one that has submitted and it's sitting in limbo, that we're just trying to go the extra mile to find out, okay, where did he submit it to? What's the hang up? And we know it goes to the governor's office, and we have to make sure that, you know, they have to be vetted by them and appointed by the governor. So we want to make sure that process is at least moving forward as much as it can. It'd be nice after the first year to have an additional board member or two. It'd be great.
Be tremendous. I mean, for
Yes.
lots and lots of reasons, and especially important on the public side.
And I'm working on people. I've been calling a couple, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Consider this. So I don't know where it is. And part of I think it's down here somewhere. Maybe it isn't, because we're going to applications for licensing next. I guess this is a question for Mr. Kuzmich. What is the outlook in terms of, I know we had talked about, we're meeting on a Zoom meeting right now. Is the intent of DCP to go back to all in-person meetings, or is there an opportunity looking forward that even if we do go back to in-person, we could have a Zoom aspect? Because I really do think that's, and I think Ann had mentioned it in the past, it is a good hook to try to get some of these people. The state is diverse. If we could grab somebody from Greenwich who might not want to come to Hartford, if we grab a person from Preston or up in Torrington, has there been discussions on how the boards are going to meet moving forward? Even let's say we go back to full in person, would there be an option to have board members being allowed to Zoom in, even if three of us are in Hartford, kind of thing?
You know, Dom, honestly, there hasn't been any formal discussions, but I've heard kind of informally that this may continue at least on a part-time basis, like you mentioned, but I can't say that I haven't been approached, or there's been no official communique yet at this point.
Okay,
Other than
I just think it's
I agree.
For us to sell the position to some people that may be on the fence. I mean, I live in Mystic and I work in Hartford, so it's not a big deal. And I haven't been to Hartford more than I can't count them on my hands in the last year, but I'm dedicated to the cause. But if we had someone who would be a good person with skills and opportunity, I'm going to use it as a selling point to try to get those positions filled, at least in the interim.
Yep. I can also try and find out. I'll inquire with some of our contacts at the department what it looks like just going forward. So
yeah,
I think it's safe to say that we would be in favor as a board to always maintain the option of a remote access to a meeting for multiple reasons. So it's a hybrid solution. Yeah.
Yes.
Weather. Other. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It's kind of proven itself that at least in an emergency type situation, this works,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I will, if I have information, I will inquire and let the board know.
Thank you.
So just to wrap up, public board member, is there anything specific task that this board needs to do? Or, Dom, thank you. You gave a perfect explanation of what's going on and utilizing ASLA. Do we as a board need to do anything else besides continue to try and get people's interest? If you have a conversation or you have somebody in mind, and you're going to continue to do what you're going to do, Dom. But do we have to do anything as a board?
Well, my question would be, I think that the key here is tracking volunteers, because we have volunteers. The problem is the pipeline, they're not getting approved by the governor's office. So to Bob, I don't know if that's something that you can track or if that's up to the board to track, but I think somebody needs to actively be involved. And I think that could be, I mean, really just being a pain in the, you know what, just checking in every week and just saying, hey, what's up? Where are we at with this? Because, you know, it's proven that if we, you know, if we just let it lie for weeks, months, it just disappears again. So at least if the past is any indication, this needs a very, very active monitoring.
I know that off the record, we're on the record. ASLA, John Bailey is the advocate for that's hired by ASLA, and that's why I asked for the names, because he is pushing it. He's asking questions, and he'll go talk to the chief of staff, and he'll go do that legwork that we won't have to do. I think we should remain somewhat impartial. We're on the board, but we should be aware if we've got a layperson that's a little bit different, like they're willing to come onto this board. We know that person. You know, Phil knows him. I know who he is. I think everyone else does, but I think there's going to be some monitoring going on, but I don't know if it necessarily has to be us. But I don't know. Do you get so DCP doesn't even get notification until after an appointment's made? Is that correct?
I believe that's the case, Dom. I forwarded the email contact to you, to the board actually. Correct. For appointment. Yep. I think just to backtrack a little bit, I think it would be a good idea for the board just to inquire directly with, you know, through our department contact for an update on status of appointments.
All right, then
I think perfect. Yeah,
I think that's what we'll do. And you did, Bob, send that, and I think it's just a simple. Yeah. I'll just put a simple
email together. Yeah.
Email together that said the board is excited that we have been made aware that there's active interest in the public member, and we're excited to, you know, to expand our board by addition of a public member, and we, you know, please let us know, you know, if there's anything we can do, but we're in full support of adding public members.
You know, Dom, just to answer your question, I usually find out after the fact. I mean, I'll get a copy of the letter that comes from my director advising that so-and-so has been appointed to the board, and, you know, so I can make arrangements to have that person, you know, sworn in and so forth. But up to that point, I'm usually not in that process.
All right, Bob, can you just coordinate with me afterwards to make sure I get it to the right person?
Yes.
That's fine. And I think Phil's right. We're just going to be a little bit of a pest. We don't have to be, we're just going to make it seem like, hey, we're excited. Let's expand our board. We know we have members waiting. We know we have applicants waiting.
I think it's a great idea. I don't think it's being a pest. I think it's just, you know, you're out there and you want to know what's going on. That's all.
Good. How many do we have waiting?
What was that, Ann?
How many applicants do we have waiting?
We know of one for sure, and we think another one, but and just to refresh everyone's memory, it's 4 licensed professionals, and then we're trying to fill 3. And I'm, you know, I think we're doing a disservice. I think it's better if we have those positions filled. And
yeah, it's 100% better.
I completely agree.
Okay. Good discussion on that one. And it seems like we're having some activity, which is good. And thank you for those of you who have gotten people to actually get their letters in. All right, we're on to 5, new business applications. We can do this a couple different ways. We can look at the 4 that we have that were submitted. If everybody, we can do them one by one. We can take a couple minutes to review them all, or if everybody's reviewed them or has questions on specifics, we can just march down 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is there a recommendation how anybody wants to go about this?
Mark, can I just say something quick? And I'm
sure.
2 things, just to go back. We'll keep the board appointment item on the agenda going forward, correct?
Please.
Okay. The other thing is we have on as not a participant, but an observer for the meeting. I think it's Rachel Meyer. She's an applicant for licensing. She is here if you want to speak with her, or I see her as a participant, attendee.
I do see, let's see where Rachel.
I could promote, I will promote her to, if you'd wish to speak.
Yeah, let's just see.
Okay.
If you want to let's just go through
sure.
each one. For Rachel's, for the fact of Rachel being at the meeting, I don't want to hold her up, so we can move Rachel Myers to the first one because she did attend the meeting. So if we haven't reviewed, I would ask that the board members do just review her information, her application.
Okay, I have her promote to speak.
Okay. Okay, has the board had a chance to review?
I have, I'm good.
Do we have any comments?
This, I assume, is an accredited.
Yep.
It is, yep,
Okay.
yep.
Ms. Meyer, if you want to add anything, you can feel free to add anything to your application. Thank you for taking the time to join.
She on mute? Oh, there she is. Still on mute?
No, I promote her to talk, so.
Good morning, all.
Good
Morning.
morning.
I appreciate you giving me a brief chance to talk. I was not prepared to do so. I was more so excited to hear my name on the agenda and listen in, but I do appreciate your consideration and taking the time to review my application. It's obviously, I'm sure you all know, a very big step in my professional development, and I'm just very thankful that you're taking the time to review it.
Perfect.
No, well, thank you. And we're excited to hear your excitement.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's just run down and do Shangwan Lee in the same situation. We'll take a minute to review just to refresh your memory.
Don't have any issue.
Ann or Phil?
Well, looks good to me.
Yep, good to go.
Okay. Grant LaPasio. Any comments, questions? It's actually nice to see on this application that even beyond the unverifiable experience, still meets the 2 years.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any issue on this one.
Ann or Phil?
I'm good to go.
I think we're good.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
And then we have Melody Rose Stein.
Stein credential.
This looks good.
No issue here.
No issue.
Lost our executive.
So wait for him. Wait for him to come back.
Yeah.
Rachel, I do have one comment. Say hi to Glenn Martin for me, please. This is.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I was going to say the same thing.
I will let him know. I believe I know, I think almost everyone probably knows
I think
Glenn.
all
Yeah,
four of us
As
know
was
who Glenn
I.
is.
Glenn gets
with us
around.
for about a year now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you, yeah, the inside, his nickname was Grady Martin.
We've heard, yes, he continues to do so for us as well. So we're
Grady
very
Martin,
thankful
yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
His big claim to fame with us is when you went out to lunch with him, when in doubt, he would always order the burger, no matter where we. Like we'd be at a chicken place or something. Oh, I'll take the burger. I'll take the burger each time. Good old Glenn.
No, that's
Great guy, great guy.
He is. He
Yeah.
absolutely is.
Yeah. I'll have to come back.
Oh.
He's back.
I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, so we can take these in a group. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve?
I move that we approve all applicants for licensure. All of
Second.
today's applicants, I should say.
Yeah,
Phil, second.
Mhm.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, they are all approved. Ms. Meyer, thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you all. It was a pleasure speaking with you briefly. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, 5B, waiver of examination, reciprocity. We don't have to make any actions on these. Bob, unless you have anything else to add.
No, it's for the board's information.
Mhm.
Reciprocity applications all through CLARB, both approved by the department.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then applications for corporate practice of landscape architecture, there are 5.
5, yeah. A lot of traffic.
Now, Bob, I guess I have one question. Do we know if these are renewals or new? How do we determine it? I guess it would, I don't know if it makes a difference. To me, it would be nice to see if these are renewals or first time.
If they're on the agenda, they're first time. First time. Anything on the agenda, unless there's an issue of, that's coming forward from a previous meeting or whatever. If these are new these are brand new.
So Richter Segan is brand new.
See, that's why I asked the question, Dom. You probably were, that's why I asked the question. And
Maybe
it
there
goes,
was a different
Person in charge.
administrator.
Oh.
I don't know. Mike Segan's been there from the beginning. Well,
But as far as I can tell, as an entity, as a landscape architect corporation, that hasn't been, it's a relatively new entity. Certainly newer than, the Richter Segan. But it's, as far as, I know these are all first time applicant, they're first time applicant.
Mark, Richter Segan, if they had an engineer, they could have been part of an engineering.
they definitely could have, and they did.
Yeah,
It also could be
probably
it could be a slight name change too. I mean, maybe they are now in Inc. and they were not, I don't know. But
Yeah,
you're right.
no,
It
I
could be
get it.
either one.
I know, like ours is a multi. We're not just a straight corporate.
Correct.
We're a conglomerate of different.
Yeah. It was just interesting. That's why I asked the question. You were thinking the same thing.
Yep.
Okay, board has to make no action on those. However, I think it does relate into item 6 on the agenda, correspondence. We did get some correspondence recently. Bob, do you have a summary of the correspondence?
And that was the email that sent out to the board from Oliver
Okay.
on the,
Oh,
go ahead.
Did everybody have a chance to review that? I did look at it. I quickly responded to it. I think we had some good dialogue, but if we want to get any of this dialogue on the record, basically that letter was from Oliver Gaffney with regards to corporate practice licensure in Connecticut and a bunch of other things with regards to a potential applicant in New York being denied. I think it was good information for this board to be aware of. I think that if this board were to do anything, we may benefit from maybe having Bob help us understand what the requirements are for a corporate licensure, the corporate licensure requirements for a practicing landscape architecture firm. What are the requirements in order to apply and become corporate licensed? But hold on, before you address that.
Sure, I'm sorry.
As far as getting involved in promoting corporate licensure or getting involved in how New York either approves or disapproves, I don't think that's in the purview of this board. So I would like to just remain focused on if we can provide any information for ourselves to understand that corporate licensure requirement, or maybe supply some information with regards to that letter. That's what we should focus on.
It's Mark, if I may, and the board. It's
Sure.
As far as the corporate requirements go, it's pretty straightforward. The applicant has to apply, be registered with the Secretary of State, and they have to designate at least one individual as a licensed landscape architect and responsible charge for the work in Connecticut. There's no breakdown in terms of ownership percentages, things like that. It's a pretty straightforward application. But the most important thing is there has to be at least one, obviously a licensed Connecticut landscape architect to in responsible charge and in charge of signing and sealing. And then as far as I don't quite, I've read the letter several times.
I'm confused by the letter as well. And I was
the
gonna
A,
bring
B's,
that
and
up.
C's, and I think, he brought up the point of, I guess he summarized it by saying, the importance of being licensed as a corporation, but does it go back to the fact that the individual that's the landscape architect went to work for a company in New York that's not licensed as a landscape architect, and therefore New York's saying that experience doesn't count because the entity you work for is not registered? Or I really kind of lost the.
Yeah, it's a little, he should, I got a different take on it. I mean, individual A recently applied for a reciprocal license. Well, it should be individual A should recently applied for reciprocal corporate licensure in the jurisdiction of New York and was denied. I don't know if they were applied for a license in New York and was denied. That was a little open-ended. And like you said, it's
Excuse me.
there's more
Yeah.
questions than actual fact, that as far as I'm concerned. And it makes sense to somebody writing this. I give them the benefit of the doubt of they wrote it, makes sense, but it's not for what we did. And frankly, we have a corporate license in Connecticut. New York has their own corporate type of situation over there. We can't speak for them anyway.
Correct.
Did they have a Connecticut firm lacking a New York corporate license, corporate practicing registration? That's not on us. If you're in a Connecticut firm, you can apply by our rules. If you want to apply in New York, you have to apply by New York rules.
Correct. So I think the only thing we could do is supply them with a statement on what Bob just said, basically.
Yep.
Just so there's a response back, and that's all we can do. For Connecticut corporate licensure, here's the process. So Bob, I'm sorry, but I'm going to ask maybe if you could summarize that. Just basically what you said. If there's a document that we can sort of put together, I don't mind putting it in a letter format. But I would ask for your help in just what you said, and just keep it very simple.
Yeah, I can.
Go ahead, Bob.
I'm sorry, Don. I could forward you I could put together some information on the corporate license, excerpts from the statute, kind of put it together and send it to you, Mark, and you could take a look at that. And
that's fine. I'd rather respond than
he
not
asked for a
respond.
response from the board, so I thought maybe you had,
Yep. I have no problem doing that.
Sure, I can do that. I'm sorry, go ahead, Don.
I still don't understand. I mean, is it a corporate license or, and it's not, I don't really care. We're going to give them the response, but I mean, the letter states, I mean, you're straddling the lines. You have to be understanding of both jurisdictions within the states. Like, you know, is it a reciprocal? Individual recently applied for a reciprocal license in the jurisdiction of New York and was denied because their diversified professional experience within New York was alleged to have been unlawfully obtained.
Yeah, so basically, New York is tough. Even in reciprocal, you have to have worked under a, so what happened is this person worked for a firm that had the appropriate licensure. That firm was a subconsultant to a firm who did not have the appropriate licensure. And that's where the state's saying, well, the prime firm didn't have it, so it doesn't really matter who you worked for directly.
Yep.
And the comment was, well, how is that individual supposed to understand that his firm was then a sub to a bigger firm? It wasn't their responsibility. And yeah, it does kind of stink, but it's nothing we can do about it. So I think all we do is we say, hey, there's our corporate licensure process, and we're just not going to involve ourselves in the New York one.
How would Connecticut treat that situation?
Well, if it's corporate licensure, we wouldn't review it. So I don't know how the internal review would happen.
Would it be the same outcome, do you think, Bill?
Well, if you talk about when somebody applies for licensure by reciprocity, it's through CLARB. So the work experience would initially be approved or screened by CLARB as to whether,
But then again, it comes back to the state board as it does with us. CLARB can approve anything, but then the state board has to approve it.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that New York is just very, very funky, and they I mean, I'll say it, they look for ways to deny applications. So.
Yeah, New York kind of hopscotched that applicant. They said, okay, even though there's an intermediate party, the applicant's really working for the ultimate party, which is a license, and kind of negated the fact that there was somebody in the middle. They took that person out or that entity out and said, C's working for A, not C to B to A,
Yeah,
That's
it's punishing the individual trying to get another corporate licensure. That's basically how I read it. Like, you're punishing this person who didn't do anything wrong because you really want that corporation to know that they should have been licensed in New York to practice. I think that's my synopsis of it. Again, don't want to get involved in it, but I do think we will put together with Bob's help. I'll throw a quick letter together and we will respond to Oliver.
I will get that off to you, Mark, on the requirements for the corporate licensure. Yep.
Great. Okay, that takes correspondence out, and now we are at 7. Comments or concerns of any person present today? I don't think we have anybody else.
I got one thing. I sent the email that Bob responded to on the 10th of November. Your third comment, Mark, about having the AG or attorney's office regarding whether or not the issue between examination for licensure, the legal language and the regulation. I just want to put that back out there. We never really got resolution from that on whether, I mean, the law says one thing and the reg says something different. So I don't really care about what CLARB has to say on it. I want to know legally, in my own personal view, is, the law is the law. Regulation is something written by Department of Consumer Protection, but if it's not what the law says, then it's got to be changed. The regulation has to be altered. So I get, and this goes back to, I know you guys have, or does our law have to be looked at some point? But it's any person who has completed the course of study and been graduated from a college or school, landscape architect, by blah, 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 may apply for such examination, provided such person shall submit evidence of a minimum of 2 years practical experience under the direct supervision of a licensed landscape architect. And we did it again today. We had 2 people that are just over 2 years and have passed the exam. And I feel our law, that's not the case, the way it's written. You have to get your practical experience and then sit for the exam. And we can discuss the ins and outs, but law is black and white in this situation. And we need a determination that someone has to look at our actual legal section 20-37 versus the regulation. Because the regulation, I feel, waters it down. And good, bad, or indifferent, it waters it down. And I know we kind of put it to bed for a little while, but we in Clarb looks at our regulation, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
And that's not, we're not doing our service as board members if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, as the presentation that I sent, I mean, Connecticut is highlighted as a green state, which based upon the regulation and the gray area of interpretation means 2 years and the exam, but the 2 years does not have to come before the exam. And that's how Clarb has historically looked at Connecticut. And
we get into this situation that it's 3 legs. So it's 2 years of the exam, we blow those out, and then we throw, I'm gonna go take the test, and then I'm gonna leave it up to this board, decide whether or not my education makes sense if I'm not in a accredited institution. So and asking the question, I look at all of them as soon as Bob sends them to me. I usually get a nice big cup of coffee and I go through and I check all the boxes that we're supposed to look at. And I didn't know this Jefferson University from Adam, but they're on the accredited list, and I made that. And because, you know, obviously Cornell's on, but you got to double check, because at any time anybody can come off the accredited list of universities, depending on accreditation or not.
So I think the last discussion we had is the way it's set up now with the regulation being left up for interpretation, the law, not so much, as Dom said, a little bit more black and white. We as a board still have the authority to deny an applicant, even if they come to us with a passing grade. It just puts some weird undue pressure on the board when a candidate comes to us with a passing exam grade and maybe doesn't meet one of the other 2 E's, experience and education.
Correct.
So the board still does have a way to deny an applicant if we feel that that's the case. But to Dom's point, I think what we were talking about and what he's still requesting is, can we get a legal determination on if we're acting within our bounds, or should we be looking at modifying one or the other? Probably the regulation.
And obviously modifying the law is going to be a lot more difficult than modifying the regulation. Right. Regulation is written by somebody in government. The law is written by the lawmakers, and to modify the law, just so you guys understand, I mean, that takes literally someone bringing it up, and then it opens up the entire licensure for debate. And I don't know if that's the right direction. I just know that from experience from the last time it was opened up.
I agree 100%, Dom. But that being said, why are we even shaking this can of worms? I mean,
I'm shaking it because the regulation is what Clarb bases it on. And right now you're telling somebody who's an emerging professional, come to Connecticut, start your exam the day you graduate, even though our law states you have to have work for 2 years before we should have that option. I think the law person has to have that, provided such person submits evidence to us of 2 years practical experience under the direct supervision of a landscape architect. It'll make us go from green to yellow or red. I don't know. I don't really care about that. But the way the law is stated, we're approving people and it goes against the law.
All right. So you're looking for clarification on the law.
No, clarification on the regulation. The law is the law. The law is the law. They can look at that clarification. They can't change that law. The AG can't change that law. Only the elected officials of the state can change that law. It has to go into session and they have to open it up. The regulation can be changed if it's deemed that it's not per the law.
Well, if there's concern, and obviously there is from you, maybe
Yes.
we should follow the law and not the regulation.
Well, we can do that, but like Mark said, we get caught in the situation where we get people. We can look at what we looked at today, where you've got people that are just under the 2 years. Most of those people sat for an exam probably over a year ago.
Yep.
Technically, by law, we could just start denying all these people. And I think they have a recourse of action to say, wait a minute.
Doesn't match the regulation.
I've done everything correctly per Clarb, who we put our trust in. And that's fine. But they told me this is what I'm supposed to do. I graduate in June. I can sit for the first exam is probably in what, like August or so, I can't remember. I can immediately start sitting for that exam. And we've had people testify in this board that it'd be great if we could do that. I think the way the law is written, it's a three-legged stool. You get some continuing, you get some experience with a licensed landscape architect. It puts you in that position. Whether or not you can pass the exam after, if you can't pass the exam after 2 years, I don't know if I want you to be a landscape architect. You should be able to pass that exam after 10 years. Study for it and take the exam. We're constantly having continuing education exams, sites, sustainable sites, LEED accreditations, all these other things that we have to do in life. I don't think it's out of the ordinary that you have to have real world capabilities before you sit for the exam. And that's the way the law has been written. That's the way I interpret it. And maybe someone else interprets it differently. I think the only thing we asked for is, I know the regulation was up a year and a half or 2 years ago that they rewrote the reg. They tried to streamline the regs across the board. My concern is the reg is not the law. The reg is something that it's regulatory. It's put in place to streamline the legal mumbo jumbo that's in the law, but the law pretty much states it. And correct me if I'm wrong, because that's what we look at. We look at this checks and balances to protect health, safety, and welfare. And if I learn a class and I take the exam right afterwards, that's fine. But you're doing practical. You're practicing landscape architecture, and for that first 2 years, you're doing it as an apprentice underneath, maybe the wrong word, a licensed accredited or a licensed landscape architect.
I guess I just don't understand what you're asking for.
Is it, Dom, is it that we want to make sure, what if we put a different spin on it? Do we ask for clarification that our board is acting legally by approving applicants who have sat for the exam before their 2 years? If we get a legal internal review to say, yes, your board, based upon the review of the regulation and the state law,
Yep.
your board is acting, basically we're protecting ourselves.
Correct.
Is that a better way to
We're
go?
not just protecting ourselves, we're protecting the state, because if I sat for that exam, I would sue the state and say, listen, I'd sue all the board members and say, listen, I spent $1,000 taking this test and you denied me access to do this, to get this licensure based on time. But there's a time built into the law.
But to speak in reality, we don't do that. We don't deny people who don't have 2 years experience from taking the exam. So, I mean, that's
a precedent that was set. And I brought this up when I first noticed it. I would say that the law is the law. I don't really care about the regulation. The law is the law. And that's where I want to understand, are we doing a disservice if we're not following the law? If you don't follow the law, you get a ticket. If you don't follow the law, you go to jail, you get fined. We're not following this law.
Well, I think Mark had a good suggestion to get a clarification on if we're acting legally. Does that satisfy your concern?
Yes.
That would be my approach.
Okay.
Yep.
It is noted, though, we could potentially be opening a can of worms, but hey, we also don't want to get caught in a lawsuit and then be the ones who were the originator of the lawsuit. Mm-hmm. I think, as on the record, it's the three-legged stool that's the most important piece about it.
Correct.
And I think we've had this discussion before amongst ourselves that we all are in agreement that the education, the examination, and the experience, if you meet all three,
correct,
there's no reason why you can't become a landscape architect in the state of Connecticut. What Dom's saying is that's all fine and dandy, and I'm glad we agree. But if our law says something different than what we're doing, we better just have some legal support that we're doing it that way.
And I don't think it necessarily has to change. I don't have a problem with that. That it is, I just think it has to be stated that it's 2 years. It's supposed to be, the way it was written, the way it has been stated, even through the last reiteration of the law, is you get your education, you work for 2 years under a licensed landscape architect. You can apply at that point to take the exam, pass test. So it's like 2.5, whatever it is, to pass. Frankly, I think it's pretty straightforward. I just don't think we're looking at it in the right regulation. That's all. I'm not trying to add years or anything, but the regulation is different than the law, and that's grounds for some things to happen. That's all.
Right, but just to circle around, if we get a determination that we're acting legally, are you good?
Yes, but I want to have the conversation. I just don't want them to. I want to make sure that they're looking at the law and the specific language that we're calling out in that versus the regulation, just as Mark highlighted in his email. The regulation waters down the law as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't speak to the law. It says, in order to be granted a license, applicant shall do 1, 2, 3. Hold a professional degree in landscape architect from a college or university accredited by Clark. Have at least 2 years of diversified experience in landscape architecture under the direct supervision of a landscape architect. It doesn't say that you can't sit for the exam until after those 2 years.
I think you make a good point, Dom. I think it's a good idea to go ahead and get an
Get a
assessment.
determination, and then maybe they can explain it to us so we understand. I'm not.
Right.
I'm just making. I'm trying to cover us as a board. That's all. I really.
And it'd be nice to have in the file. It would be
And
great
we
to have
have
in
a
the file.
precedent that we're every time we're approving these, we're setting more and more of a precedent that you can sit for that exam. And in the grand scheme of things, it's this view of reciprocity is a two-way street with our neighboring states. Do I care about that? No, I care about Connecticut. We're here to support Connecticut. However, you could see how someone from another state, I know for a fact, I've read Massachusetts law, I've read New York law, I've read Rhode Island law. And then that goes back to that reason. They're coming here because it's a faster path to licensure. If you're in the know, you know that. Doesn't really matter to me either way, but if our law is such, we can talk about changing. We can't talk about changing the law. Someone can talk about changing the law, but the regulation should match the law. I see things in black and white. That's the way we're supposed to. Black doesn't meet black right now. White doesn't meet white.
Yeah, but I think we've all agreed that that's an issue and we're going to get clarification. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes, so Bob, I think we got a little work to do on putting something together, but I think you're gonna probably be the best one to request the review. I don't mind helping out, but I think we gotta sort of push this back.
I could start with ask our legal department to take a look at this first to see.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we understand our regulation and the statute don't really match, and we just want to make sure that this is how we're going about it. Is this supported?
Right.
Oh, and then I'll be quiet.
No, we won't. That's a lie. No, we won't. Okay. Good meeting. I don't think we have anything else to talk about, but we do have things to follow up. Please note that the 2022 meeting schedule is attached to the agenda. So if you can get those dates in your calendar, that's probably the best thing to do.
We meet in January this year. Is that what that is?
February.
Oh, we are February.
February 15th will be our next one. Does anybody else, any board members have anything else to add? So have a good Thanksgiving.
You too.
You too. Thank you.
Have a good holiday season if our paths don't cross.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.